Good evening, YouTube. My name is Dan, and I'm the coach of your St. Louis Rampardos. The St. Louis Rampardos had smashed their way to victory again last week, coming with a nice 3-0 victory over the New York Yankees and Shady Penguin, solidifying ourselves as the first place leader in our conference, in our division specifically, taking a 1-game lead over the Borussia Donphan and El Scizor. We have a very, very interesting match coming up here today, or tomorrow actually, taking on Steve and the Milwaukee Sawsbucks, a 1-6 team that had really high hopes jumping back into the season after quitting the GBA last season. Steve, you guys don't know, is the founder of the GBA, so without him, I would definitely not be in this league. So this is a very, very epic matchup for us. He's got an amazing team, despite the fact that his record doesn't show it. He's got a great team, and he's a really good battler. He's very creative with his sets, so we do have to keep that in mind in our team building, and not only that, but our playing. He can get a little bit creative. He likes to run, similarly to me, I think, he likes to run things like Tailwind and things like that, so he does like to get a little bit gimmicky sometimes, but when it works out, it can be very, very effective for him and his team. Real quick, guys, if you can show your love on that like button down below, that'd be really, really cool. I'd appreciate the support. And just to address the rumors here, the St. Louis Rams NFL football team has announced that they are going to be moving to Los Angeles. The St. Louis Rampardos, however, will be staying in St. Louis. So hopefully that clears the air on any of that stuff. And we're going to continue rocking and head smashing here in St. Louis as opposed to Los Angeles, despite the fact I live in Connecticut. Now, anyway, let's move on here. We're going to talk about Steve's team a little bit, talk about our team and why we built our team the way we did to prepare for Steve here. So Steve's team features an impressive lineup, including his franchise Pokemon Mega Gardevoir. He also has a really intense Fire, Water, Grass core featuring Rotom-Wash, one of the best physical walls in the game, and just great defensive Pokemon in general. Great pivot with Volt Switch. He's got a Heatran, really bulky, legendary Pokemon that can do a lot of things, including set up Stealth Rocks. It can take hits from the special and physical side. It can also it also sports the Flash Fire ability, which makes it so V-Create spamming is a little less likely for our Victini. We have to be careful with that. He's also got a Shaymin, which rounds out that Fire, Water, Grass core. Shaymin base across 100 across the board like Victini. Does a lot of different things. I wouldn't be surprised if he ran some sort of an offensive Life Orb set, potentially even an Assault Vest set for his Victini to kind of take some of those hits, especially if I bring things like Blastoise and so on and so forth. He's got an amazing fighting Pokemon in Conkeldurr. As we saw, I used that a lot in the UCL. Haxorus, one of his biggest threats, hits that 97 base speed stat, but this thing after a Dragon Dance, Haxorus can sweep an entire team. It is absolutely insane. It's got an insane attack stat and a really decent move pool to kind of fit with that, and obviously having the Dragon Dance makes it even more of a threat. You know, he's got an Alomomola as well, which is pretty much setup fodder, but it can be quite annoying with Wish Passing, things like that. It obviously has a high chance of getting those Scald Burns and Toxic and Protect and stuff. It's pretty gimmicky, but pretty annoying Pokemon, especially with the Regenerator ability. He's got Skunk Tank as well as his only form of hazard removal, so he does have Skunk Tank for Defog. It also gets Pursuit and Sucker Punch, things like that, so we do have to kind of keep that in mind, especially having a couple Psychic Pokemon on our team. He's got a Mesprit, which I'm familiar with very well. Decent Pokemon, a lot of coverage, does get knockoff, some utility stuff, in addition to having the ability to set up Stealth Rocks. Sigilyph and Cinccino are his last two Pokemon. Cinccino hits the 115 speed tier. That makes it really fast. However, I do have Pokemon that are faster in Jolteon. He does have a Sigilyph as well, which frequently runs Magic Guard, so it doesn't take any damage from entry hazards, and also usually will carry a Focus Sash if he wants to bring it. In terms of what I really expect Steve to bring before I jump into my team here, I'm pretty sure he's going to bring his Mega Gardevoir. That thing is something that he brings a lot. Mega Gardevoir, sorry. It's something he brings a lot. It's an insanely good wall breaker, hitting base 100 speed once it Mega Evolves, 80 prior to doing so. It's going to hit really hard with moves like Hyper Voice. That, because of Pixelate, pretty much wrecks everything. You guys have seen Choice Spec Sylveon put in the work so far. Gardevoir is like Choice Spec Sylveon, but like even better, really. You know, but luckily for us, we have a couple responses to that. I think he's going to bring that Rotom-Wash and not the Alomomola. I do expect the Rotom-Wash. It could serve as a really good Victini counter, especially if he is preparing for like a banded Victini. Even though he can take the hits, unless I'm running Energy Ball on Victini, Rotom-Wash pretty much handles it relatively well. I'm expecting that Heatran to show up as well because of the Victini. By bringing Heatran, he basically effectively stops me from V-Create spamming. Otherwise, banded V-Create kind of rips through his entire team. But because of the Heatran, I think he's going to be able to stop that. I wouldn't be surprised if he brought a bulky Heatran to kind of also help against the Victini, which is a ginormous threat. And you'll see that Steve is going to have to really prepare for Victini in this team build. I think the Skunk Tank has a really high chance to show up as well, just because from a type perspective, the Dark typing allows him to take down Uxie and Victini relatively well, especially with that priority Sucker Punch. But more importantly, he's got the ability to Pursuit Trap Victini as well. And last but not least, he's got the ability to remove hazards and use Poison Type moves for Sylveon. So Skunk Tank could be relatively effective, even though it's a kind of a weird Pokemon in terms of its stat distribution. It does hit relatively hard, and because of that Sucker Punch and the Pursuit, both of those can be relatively effective against my Victini or my Uxie or something like that. So those are some of the Pokemon I'm expecting to bring. He could potentially bring that Haxorus, but I don't really foresee him bringing the Alomomola. I don't really see the Mesprit, maybe the Mesprit as a lead for rocks, but I think he might fit that on a Heatran. I don't really see the Sigilyph coming either. It's a little too frail, and I think my team just has too many wall breakers, but I prepared for everything, and I think we're ready to rock. So let's jump into our team build here. It's a very interesting team build this week, and I've gone a little bit more offensively than I normally would. Normally I carry, you know, a dedicated physical wall, dedicated special wall, usually a mixed wall of some sort, and then maybe one sweeper and a pivot Pokemon. But this week we brought a lot of offense, and I'm really looking to catch Steve off guard by just hitting him really, really hard throughout the early game in the match and break down some of his walls really quickly. And I think I've designed the team to do that. So we've got Victini here, which is going to be running a fully specially defensive set, running max HP, max special defense, carrying the V-Create, the Thunder Wave, the U-Turn, and of course the Taunt. So Taunt is there to prevent rocks and different things like that, potentially T-Waves, things, prevent maybe Substitute being set up. Obviously U-Turn there for momentum, Thunder Wave there just for general paralysis. His default switch into Heatran is that, his default switch into Victini is that Heatran, so it'd be really nice to paralyze that thing. And surprisingly enough, even without any attack investment, V-Create actually does OHKO Gardevoir, Mega Gardevoir, and Shaymin, assuming they're more offensively based, and it also 2-hit KOs the Conkeldurr, and we'll outspeed Conkeldurr after the speed drop, I believe. I should actually check that, but I think we will. So we'll 2-hit KO the Conkeldurr as well with Victini. So this thing, despite the fact that it's not an offensive Victini, it does really, really well. And you may be saying, aDrive, why are you bringing specially defensive Victini? You were just talking about in the pregame how it kind of rips his team. Well, the reason why is because Mega Gardevoir is a ginormous threat, guys. That is one of the best special offensive Pokemon in the GBA. The thing is absolutely amazing. He was in the top 5, I think, for kills last season. And unless you have a good switch in for Hyper Voice, it's going to do a lot of work. So I'm carrying the leftovers. And again, this is dedicated Gardevoir check. Unless he's carrying Shadow Ball, which unless he's modest, Shadow Ball is not even going to 2-hit KO. Unless he's carrying Shadow Ball, I can eat up the Hyper Voice, I can eat up the Psyshock because we resist both of those, and then Focus Blast, which I'm assuming he's going to have to carry for Mega Aggron. We can eat that up as well because we are so specially bulky. So running the bulky Victini gives me a very reliable response to his Gardevoir. It also allows me to take on the Shaymin a little bit better. I might be able to catch a surprise kill with a V-Create, having him think he's going to kill me with his Earth Power. I'm able to fire off a V-Create and kill him. So I'm missing out on the speed in the offense, but I think we can hit hard enough with the V-Create to make Victini effective, and the fact that I have a dedicated Mega Gardevoir switch in makes this thing incredibly useful. If he decides to not bring Mega Gardevoir for some reason, that's fine. Victini still has usefulness as a pivot and a status inducer by using T-Wave, and of course that, like I said, that V-Create does hit really hard on anything aside from maybe Rotom and some of the stuff that resists it, and obviously Heatran. The next Pokemon we're going to be bringing is, of course, our Mega Evolution, Mega Aggron, which is carrying Impish Nature, Tank Set, as usual. We're running max HP, most of our investment into bulk, into special defense. I have a little bit of speed on there, just a speed creep in case he wants to speed creep with Conkeldurr. If he throws like 50 EVs in his Conkeldurr speed, he would normally outspeed us, but I just threw a couple extra on there to make sure we outspeed that Conkeldurr so we can hit it with some Heavy Slams. If you have the Heavy Slam, the Earthquake is obviously there. Heavy Slam for Gardevoir. Earthquake obviously hits the, the Heatran super effective. We've got Avalanche there for Haxorus and Shaymin. Both of those are going to take a ton from that. We obviously can eat up those Earth Powers from the Shaymin. And we've got Toxic there as well, which will hit that Rotom Wash on the switch in. Hopefully we can poison that thing and wear it down because it's kind of a pain otherwise. So I think Mega Aggron can do a lot of work against this team. Again, unless he brings Focus Blast on Mega Gardevoir, Mega Aggron serves as a really good response to Mega Gardevoir. Mega Aggron also manages to do pretty well against a lot of his team, including that Shaymin. I'm assuming he'll carry the Earth Power, but it's still there. Haxorus obviously is not going to do too much against Mega Aggron. And having the Toxic, is there for things like Alomomola and stuff. It'd be nice to status those things so they kind of lose their... It puts a timer on them and they lose their longevity. The next Pokemon we're going to be bringing this week is Tesla Jolteon, who's done a phenomenal job so far. Because of his base 130 speed stat, we're actually able to outspeed everything on his team. His team is a little bit slow in terms of he doesn't really have anything super duper quick. So his fastest Pokemon is the Chinchino. We're going to speed creep that Chinchino by 1 point, make sure we outspeed everything that's not Scarfed. Obviously, Haxorus, Dragon Dance will outspeed us, but what are you going to do? We've got the Assault Vest on there as well, the Bay V or AV, you may have heard. We've got a little bit of HP investment, full special attack. We've got the Assault Vest there to help us take hits from the Shaymin a little bit better, maybe snag a surprise kill with Signal Beam. Also allows us to take a Hyper Voice from the Gardevoir if we're at full. Couple other things. I like having a little bit of bulk on my Jolteon, and I put over 100 HP EVs as well, just to give us a little bit of bulk to take those special hits a little bit better, including Rotom. That's another big thing, is it allows me to switch on the Rotom, keep him from Volt switching, and I can take the Hydro Pumps relatively well, especially if he's a defensive Rotom. I can't stay in for days against Rotom, but I can definitely take 1 or 2 hits and I can pivot out, as he does not have a single Ground-type Pokemon or Electric Immunity on his team. So Volt switching with Jolteon is going to be a very effective strategy in this matchup. If I'm able to get the matchups I want, I should be able to Volt switch freely on pretty much everything and be able to kind of cause havoc on his team and get the right matchups that I need. We're carrying the Volt Switch, the Thunderbolt, Signal Beam for just general coverage like the Shaymin, and last but not least, HP Ground, which is obviously going to hit that Heatran super effective. If he's running a fully defensive Heatran with special defense and HP, we should be able to two-shot the Heatran or come really, really close to two-shotting it with the HP Ground. So we'll kind of see how that goes. And I can take the Earth Power as well because that Assault Vest, it allows me to take it a little bit better, especially if he's defensive. The next Pokemon on our team is very, very important this week. And in my team building, I was kind of tossed up about how I should go about the next 3 Pokemon. And I really, really felt that this was the way to go about it. We're going to be bringing that Choice Banded Heracross back. So Scarborne is returning with the Choice Band, carrying Close Combat and Mega Horn, Knockoff, and Earthquake. And looking at his team breakdown, aside from his Haxorus and his Rotom, if he runs max speed, and his Shaymin, we'll throw the Shaymin in there, Heracross outspeeds pretty much everything on his team. It actually outspeeds his Gardevoir prior to Mega Evolving. I actually am 1 point higher than Adamant max speed Haxorus, so we actually outspeed Adamant Haxorus if he's not Jolly. This Heracross with the Choice Band, I am Jolly Choice Banded. Again, I one-shot the majority of his team with this Heracross. Close Combat beats Heatran. You know, I do about 60 to 80%, 65 to 80% with Close Combat or Mega Horde against the Rotom. Even if he's fully physically defensive, I have the guts there to absorb the Will-O-Wisp. I have to, and then everything dies. And if he's not running a max speed Rotom, like I said, we're going to outspeed the Rotom and 2-hit him. And he's got to run timid max speed on that Rotom to be able to outspeed our Heracross. This Banded Heracross should put in the finest of work this match. Again, prior to the Mega Evolution of Gardevoir, Heracross just destroys his team. There's a really good chance I actually lead with Heracross. He could catch me off guard with like an air slash from a Shaymin, or potentially an HP flying on something, maybe Aerial Ace on Conkeldurr, but we'll have to keep an eye on those kind of things. But for the most part, we can just wreak havoc on this team. Like I said, lead Heracross, he has really no switch-ins for it, and I really think that this Banded Heracross can just tear holes through his entire squad and really give us a chance to pull out the W here. So I'm really looking forward to this Heracross set. Guts, Jolly, Choice Banded, max attack, max speed. And again, like I said, we're pretty much one-shotting everything. In fact, one of the interesting things is an offensive Gardevoir, Mega Gardevoir, actually gets 2-hit KO by Knockoff, even though it doesn't have an item to knock off, which is insane, if you think about it. The next Pokemon we're going to be bringing is very, very unique, and I think is going to be super cool this match, and hopefully it works out to our design here. Sylveon. I'm actually running a fully specially offensive Sylveon with Modest. We've got max HP as well, so we're not really looking to outspeed anything, but we're carrying Hyper Voice, HP Ground, Wish, and Protect. The Wish and the Protect there are there to really help out our Mega Aggron to give it a little bit more longevity, and also give our Sylveon some more longevity, or maybe pass that over to something that might have gotten worn down otherwise. Hyper Voice is our move of choice, hitting everything on his team incredibly hard, except for his Heatran, in which case we do have the HP Ground. Our natural special bulk allows us to take those flash cannons without too much of an issue, and we can hit that thing pretty hard. Now, the nice thing about this Sylveon set is I have to use it at the right time, but it does carry the Kabia Berry, which is a special berry that reduces the damage from poison-type super effective moves. So what that means is Conkeldurr and Haxorus both carry Poison Jab, and both of those Pokemon get pretty much destroyed by a Hyper Voice from my Sylveon. So I might be able to catch a surprise kill there by eating up a Poison Jab from one of those two Pokemon, or maybe even Skunk Tank, and firing off a big Hyper Voice. choice. He's going to have a really, really hard time taking that on. And again, this thing absolutely just destroys his team. There's not a single switch-in on his team aside from Heatran, but I do have the HP ground, and I could play pretty safe with this Sylveon and try to preserve that berry for the right time against either Conkeldurr, Haxorus, or maybe even Skunk Tank. Last but not least, making its return to the Rampardos yet again after a couple of stellar weeks, we're going to be bringing the Choice Scarf Salamence back. Earhart is coming back, and this week we're running Max Attack, Max Speed, which allows us to Speed Tie with any of his Scarfers. We actually Speed Tie or Outspeed everything on his team except for a Scarf Chinchino. What this means is it gives us a check to Dragon Dance Haxorus as well. If he Dragon Dances once, I'm able to bring in the Salamence, and I'll still outspeed him because we do have the Max Speed. I obviously will outspeed his Mega Gardevoir after Mega Evolution because of that speed boost. And again, I'm just going to outspeed everything on his team except for potential Speed Tie with Scarf Shaymin or the potential Scarf Chinchino, which is, I think, pretty unlikely in my opinion. We're carrying the Steel Wing this week instead of the Iron Tail. After a Moxie Boost, Steel Wing does actually knock out Mega Gardevoir, and after Victini's U-turn plus Steel Wing, we're actually able to knock out Gardevoir as well. It does about 75, maybe a little bit higher percentage to a standard offensive Mega Gardevoir. We've got the Outrage there just to hit things generally really hard, including that Rotom, things like that. Dragon Claw there in case I don't want to lock myself in Outrage, and Earthquake obviously for the Heatran. If we're able to get a Moxie Boost up, this Salamence absolutely sweeps. It's kind of a fail-safe again for that Haxorus, which can run through teams, and it's got really good coverage across the board. Obviously, I have to watch out for things like HP Ice or Ice Beam and stuff like that, so Salamence is more of a late-game sweeper after I scout out some of his sets, but I really think it can do a lot of work in this matchup, especially after Heracross has kind of picked out a couple of the monsters, and hopefully Aggron and Victini are able to hold down the fort while the rest of my Juggernauts are able to do the work. So that's going to be that, guys. That's going to be our team here. We're going to play Steve, and I think you guys will enjoy the match tomorrow. Should be a really good match. Definitely not underestimating him, despite the fact that he's 1-6. Again, he's shown himself to be a very creative and good battler, and his team is very, very good. He's got a lot of good threats, really good synergy across the team. So it's going to be very interesting for us to try to come up with a W here. But we will do our best, as the St. Louis Rampardos always do. If you want to pick up a St. Louis Rampardos t-shirt, you can do that. Description, link in the description, of course. And I think that's going to be it for me, guys. My name is Dan. I'm the coach of your St. Louis Rampardos. Let's do this. Head smash, baby. Peace.